What's good, Orange Nation? This is Neil Adler with another episode of Syracuse Central via the Fan Arch Network. And we're going to do Syracuse football today. So, in 2.5 weeks, our beloved Orange are going to kick off the 2025 season against that other orange clad school, Tennessee, in Atlanta. Syracuse is a huge underdog. Whatever. That's why they play games on the field. So we're still going through preseason camp, fall camp, practices, etc. And we don't know who the starting quarterback is yet. But that's okay because we're going to know pretty soon. Syracuse had a scrimmage this past weekend, and it's pretty neck and neck right now between Steve Angeli, the transfer from Notre Dame, and Ricky Collins, the transfer from LSU, to win the starting job. That's according to head coach Fran Brown. He's looking for both Angeli and Collins to continue to make huge strides this week during practices. They have another scrimmage coming up. It's slated for this weekend. And there are some rumblings that maybe we'll have a little bit more clarity about the starting quarterback position after this next scrimmage. There is one more week of practice. There's a little bit more than a week of practice, but there's one more weekend after this weekend. Am I doing my math right? I think I am. So they've got some time, but who knows? Maybe they'll make a decision after this next scrimmage. But right now it's neck and neck, as I said. And Coach Brown also did say that among the other backups, he was impressed. He's been impressed recently with two incoming freshmen, true freshmen, Henry Bellin and Luke Carney. Henry's from New York City, Cardinal Hayes, and Luke is from Dallas. And neither of them are going to get first-team reps in terms of the season unless some bad injuries come up. We'll knock on wood there. But that's encouraging for the future. But in terms of Steve and Ricky, it's interesting. They're both four-star prospects in high school. They're both high three-star transfer portal prospects. Angeli has more experience at the collegiate level, but neither him or Collins played, and Collins is from LSU. Neither of them have played a ton. What I'm hearing is that Collins, and this isn't a secret, Collins has a ridiculous arm, strong arm, and he's a really athletic guy. Angeli, maybe more of a traditional pocket passer. Not saying he's not athletic, has a good arm, but he's also got more experience. Maybe he's older, so maybe he's got a little bit more veteran kind of situation going on. And that something can be said for that. So I have no idea. It's interesting. When Collins transferred from LSU to Syracuse during the winter portal window, he was then named the starter in April for this coming season. But that was before Angeli transferred, and obviously Steve isn't going to transfer to Syracuse. He doesn't think he has a shot to win the starting position. So who do I think? I honestly have no idea. Fran was quoted as saying it's like 51-49, 52-48. Okay. That's pretty neck and neck. We should have more clarity maybe after this next scrimmage. But it's kind of exciting. It's also a little nerve-wracking. One of these guys is going to try and replace Kyle McCord, who led the country in passing yards a season ago. Set all kinds of program and ACC records, is in the pro ranks now with his hometown Philadelphia Eagles. So it's tough shoes to fill. That being said, a lot of the ACC and national pundits, they say, oh, okay, well, Syracuse has a much tougher schedule this year, and they don't have Kyle McCord as well as some other key guys on both sides of the field, including receivers. Trevor Pena transferred to Penn State. Jackson Meeks is in the pros. Oronde Gatson is in the pros. Okay, that's true. But, teams have huge makeovers every year due to guys exhausting their eligibility, going to the pros, transferring. So it's next man up. I don't necessarily think Steve Angeli or Ricky Collins, whoever's QB1, is going to have the same numbers as Kyle McCord. But I don't think that's going to be such a drastic drop-off. It's just they're unproven. Neither of them was a star. Kyle came to Syracuse, and the year before, he was 11-1 as the starter at Ohio State. He wasn't guaranteed the starting job as a senior by Ryan Day, so he transferred. Okay, kind of, this a little bit of similar circumstance to Ricky. and Steve not being guaranteed the starting position at Notre Dame or LSU, but Kyle had more experience. He was proven. He was 11-1 as a starter. So I get the skepticism, but I think the quarterback position is going to be solid. Not as good as last year, perhaps, but solid. We'll see. We'll see the next couple of days of practice, and then following this next scrimmage, we're gonna have more clarity about where things are. All right, we're gonna transition here to, well, this always stinks, but it's part of sports and it's definitely a part of football. So we got some injury updates, and it's going to focus on the receiver spot. So word broke that two true freshman wide receivers, both of whom hold a lot of promise for the future, they're injured. And so Julian McFadden from Pennsylvania, he has a broken collarbone and he's out for the season, according to Fran Brown. He's a 3-star prospect, super, super talented. Again, not a 4 or 5-star, but he's got a ton of speed and he's got a ton of promise. More of a developmental receiver, I would assume. But he's out for the year, so we're wishing Julian well. That stinks. And then there's another one. So this is another true freshman. This is Darius Booby Johnson. So he's going to be out for around 5 weeks. He has a fractured fibula. So we're obviously sending positive thoughts to Darius as well. And Darius has been practicing with the second team unit. Now, I'm not saying he was going to be a starter on the depth chart in week 1, but I could see him getting some playing time. Obviously, now that's shifted in terms of when he's going to get on the field, and we hope to see him back after 5 weeks or so. And he comes from Miami Northwestern High School. That's the same high school as multiple other 2025 commits, i.e. incoming freshmen for Syracuse, as well as Calvin Russell. And we all know who Calvin Russell is. He's the 2026 verbal commit, 5-star, top 25 national prospect, chose Syracuse, stunned the college football world, so to speak. And everyone's thinking he'll flip before the early signing period in December, but I don't think he's going to because he is super tight with Fran Brown. But anyway, so those are the updates on Julian and Darius. No other significant injuries at this time. A couple other guys have been wearing those green non-contact jerseys, but nothing that I can tell is significant. And in terms of the wide receiver room, I think the wide receiver room is going to be fine. Kind of like with the quarterback, it's a little bit unproven. It's less unproven than the quarterback room because there's guys returning that had, decent amount of reps last year and then transfers in that didn't play for Syracuse, but are, they're not like incoming freshmen. But again, they lost Pena, they lost Meeks to the pros, Gadsden, etc. But they've got a crew. They've got a crew. You've got Daryl Gill, you've got Jonte Cook, the transfer. You've got Amari Hatcher, Justice Ross Simmons. You've got two 4-stars from I'm not sure. Jalen Hornsby, I can't remember if he might have been a high 3-star. But Emmanuel Ross, they were both in the 2024 class, and Ross was a high 4-star. He was one of the higher ranked recruits, commits for Syracuse in that 2024 class. So was Jamie Tremble, the tight end. But anyway, my point here is that the wide receiver room, I think, is going to be okay. All right, we're going to move on to the AP poll, which came out on Monday. Now, let me preface here. Take these freaking polls, these preseason prognostications, all this stuff with the proverbial grain of salt. That's going to be one of the things I'm going to say over and over again. And feel free to leave comments in the comment section about how I'm a total bonehead for saying the proverbial grain of salt. But my point here is that we're talking about this stuff because it's the preseason and it's August and it sparks debate. It doesn't mean anything when the season comes along. I'm getting fired up here. Anyway, but the preseason AP Top 25 came out on Monday. The coaches poll was last Monday. Syracuse received 16 votes in the coaches poll. Syracuse received 0 votes in the AP poll. All right, whatever. Like I said, they lost Kyle McCord, a ton of key guys on both sides of the field, offense, defense, and they have a brutal schedule. Fine. You don't want to give them votes, whatever. They win some games, including week 1 against Tennessee, which is 24th in the AP poll. They'll be ranked. I don't care. But What's up with Louisiana Lafayette, the Raging Cajuns, getting votes, and Toledo and some other schools? And I'm not disrespecting these schools because those are good programs, but you're really telling me that Toledo is better than Syracuse? Really? Again, it doesn't mean anything right now. If Syracuse wins games, given how many ranked teams they play, they're going to be ranked, they're going to be receiving votes. It doesn't matter. But I'm just like, really? Toledo? No disrespect. Toledo's a good program. But Syracuse won 10-3 a year ago. So in terms of Syracuse's opponents this year, okay, so you got number 4 Clemson, number 6 Notre Dame, number 10 Miami, number 16 SMU, number 24 Tennessee. And then that's 5 ranked teams, 4 on the road, and 1 neutral site. Fun. And then 3 opponents are in the other receiving votes category. Georgia Tech, which I think could be ranked at some point this year. I think they might be the top in the top 4, top 5 of the ACC. Duke and Pittsburgh. Syracuse plays Georgia Tech on the road, Duke at home. And I'm totally having a senior moment here. What was the other team? Duke, Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh. Oh my God, I forgot about Pittsburgh. What's wrong with me? Pittsburgh's at home as well. So 8 of their 12 opponents are either ranked or receiving votes in the preseason poll. Yikes. Syracuse's 4 other opponents, by the way, are UConn at home in the non-conference, Colgate at home in the non-conference, North Carolina at home on Halloween against Bill Belichick in North Carolina. That's going to be fun. And the regular season finale is at home against Boston College. So it's like all of their toughest games are, in terms of like ranked opponents, receiving votes, or whatever, predominantly are on the road. And the road's usually harder, just kind of like whatever. It's like, man, it's a brutal schedule. But like I said earlier today on social media, to be the best, you have to play the best and you have to beat the best. So you look, Fran Brown ain't scared. He's not scared. He wants the Volunteers in week 1. He wants the Volunteers. Bring on the SEC. He coached in the SEC. Bring on Clemson on the road. Bring on SMU on the road. Miami on the road. Whatever. Notre Dame, that's going to be a tough one. Be interesting to see if Steve Angeli is this QB1 when they, play the Fighting Irish in late November. That could be cool. What if like Notre Dame is like undefeated or has 1 loss, and Syracuse has gone through its schedule and only has like 2 losses or 3, but is like ranked and beat some good teams, and Angeli's the QB1, and then they head to South Bend. Ooh, that's dope. All right, let's focus on week 1. Anyway, that's the AP poll. It's fun to talk about. It doesn't mean a thing. There, I said my piece. Okay. This last story really irritates me. And I'm a chill dude, and I'm all about like love and kindness and whatever, peace and harmony. But like sometimes things just get me fired up. And so I saw this article. Yeah, I believe, yes, it was Monday. CBS Sports. No disrespect. Got no problems with CBS Sports. They have an article every year, and I've written about it in the past for some of the other places that I write for. But they have a piece every year where they they list the best team from every state, the best team. And so obviously my focus here is on New York State, the Empire State. So they don't have Syracuse as the best team in New York this year. What? They have Army. Okay, they have Army. And look, Army is a service academy. One of my best friends from high school went to West Point. So I got mad respect for our veterans and our service members and our service academies. They're sacrificing themselves for our freedom. So like this isn't nothing against Army per se. This is just about Syracuse not being the best team in New York State. And so Army went 12-2 last year, Syracuse 10-3. They were like neck and neck in the AP, the final AP and coaches poll. I think Syracuse was 1 ahead of the Black Knights in the AP, and the Black Knights were 1 ahead of Syracuse in the coaches. Okay. All right. Army won the American Conference. They had a better record. They didn't. They played one ranked team and got blown out by Notre Dame. Syracuse played four ranked teams. They won three of them. Their losses. They lost at Pittsburgh. Kyle McCord had a terrible game. Pittsburgh faded down the stretch. They had been good at that point. When the game was played. The Stanford loss at home is just bad. I mean, there's no way around that. And then they lost at BC. So does Syracuse have worse losses? I don't know. That was last year. But this year, Syracuse has votes in the coaches poll, not in the AP. Army has more votes than Syracuse in the coaches poll and votes in the AP. Army plays one ranked team, at least in the preseason AP top 25. I believe it's Kansas State. Syracuse plays five. If Syracuse has anywhere near the record of Army, given their schedule, how can you say the Army is the better team? That's the other thing. It's like, what do we mean by the best team? Are we just saying the best record? Because sometimes the better team doesn't have the better record depending on where they play. And this is what conference they play and who they. I mean, this is like the ongoing thing with the college football playoff and the SEC and the all the Power Four conferences. And we play 9 in league games. You only play 8, or we play tougher non-conference. It's all whatever. So I'm talking about something here that's kind of like we're splitting hairs. I guess my point is I just have a lot of pride as a Syracuse alum, as a journalist that covers the team. I try and remain objective, but not really. But I call it like I see it. I'm not afraid to call my alma mater out either. So it's like, you really, like, after a 10-3 year last year, they were ranked 20th in the final poll. They got all this momentum, crushing on the recruiting trail. I get everything they have to replace from 2024 this season. I also get the schedule, but you're really telling me the Army's the better team? Really? I don't think so. Again, much respect to West Point. I hope the Black Knights have a great season. But if Syracuse, and I'll just leave it at this, respectfully, CBS Sports, if Syracuse has anywhere close to the record of Army, Syracuse is the better team in the Empire State. Now, maybe another team could jump up and be the best team in the Empire State. I don't know who else that would be. Buffalo? Nah. Syracuse is the number 1 team in New York State. That's a wrap. All right. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. We'll have another one tomorrow. I appreciate you all. I'm Neil Adler, the host of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. Take care, friends.